Welcome to the Equinety Podcast, where horse owners just like you share their incredible Equinety stories and how Equinety is changing their horses' lives. Whether you're searching for something to give your performance horse better focus, faster recovery, and more stamina, or in the extreme case where all hope seems lost, give your horse what it needs to help heal at a cellular level, you'll find it here. So jump in on today's episode to hear how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Now, welcome your host, John Dowdy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We're swinging out into California. We've got Diane Fox on the call this week. Diane, welcome to the Equinety Podcast.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Well, you bet. And like I have found you on the social medias out there on the Facebooks, as some people quote, you had commented on one of the mini ads. And what it said was, the first sentence was, I've been using this product for about a year and will never stop. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we got to find out what's going on here. So let's get into this. Now, you have had a 35-year-old Arab. So let's talk about this horse. How long have you had him, and what was going on, and how did you find the Equinety product?
Well, his name was Rafiq, and he was 35 years old. And my significant other had him for 20 years before I came into the picture. And that was about 4 years ago. And when I came into the picture, he was getting older. He'd lost, what I called his sharpness was gone. He was pretty dull in the eye, easily bullied by the other horses. And I wanted to find a product that would help him to regain his luster, so to speak, his shine. And I tried just about everything. I mean, seriously, I tried just about everything. And I was already throwing my hands up, and he wasn't getting any better, and he wasn't putting on any more weight. And I just thought, I don't know what else to do. And all these other companies were telling me, I'd call them and say, what do I do? And they'd say, well, here, try this product. And he hated powder. He wouldn't eat the powder, no matter how I mixed it. And then one day on Facebook, I saw an advertisement for Equinety. And I was like, well, why not? One more, And so I did. I bought it. And about a week after I started adding it to Rafiq's food, and I noticed the strangest thing. It was his eyes. His eyes looked clearer. His eyes looked shiny. And he was attentive. And if you didn't know him, probably wouldn't realize it. But I asked George, come look. And sure enough, his eyes were sparkly. And it wasn't long after that he started, gaining his weight. He started getting his Arabian attitude back. And I attribute that to using the Equinety totally, completely.
Yeah. Now, when you say you've tried or you had tried everything on the market, so you're talking like, 2, 3, 4 products maybe? Or are you talking like dozens and dozens or...
I'm talking probably, it wouldn't be far-reaching to say 10, 15 different kinds of products, different kinds of things. I tried some from our local feed store. I tried some from different companies online. I tried this one company who, you order these little packages and they have all this different kind of stuff in it. And, they kind of sort of worked, but not truly noticeably. And I wanted something that was going to really help him. I was in fear for him at the time. He was losing a lot of weight. He was very dull. And I had gone out one day and I just felt like he was saying, Mom, I'm done. I'm just done. And I came in the house and said to George, I think we really need to start talking about putting him down. And George said, I'm not ready. I can't do that yet. I'm okay. And so that's when my search for something for him really increased. I would try, if it sounded good, I went after it. And it just seemed nothing would help. And then I came across the Equinety. And I know people are going to think I'm lying. I'm not lying.
Yeah. Well, we have hundreds of very similar stories. Now, and of course, at this time, he's 34. So, he's lived a great life. And, he's 34. So it's one of those things. Everything was kind of going downhill on him. You tried everything. And now you had also mentioned that he just refused powders. He didn't like powders. What was your reaction when you found out this was a powder, and how, what was going through your mind there, and what did he do with it?
Well, I almost passed it by because it was a powder. And because I knew I thought I knew that when I fed it to him, he would just ignore it. And I was like, okay. But I thought, I got to try something. I got to try it. So I tried it. And the very first time I fed it to him, he ate it. I was in shock. I couldn't eat it. And I was stunned. I was like, oh my gosh, and yeah, that was it. And then he got it every day after that, ate it the same every day.
Yeah.
He had no problems with it. Mm-mm.
So within the first week, you're noticing his eyes just really shiny, really bright. So life is coming back into his eyes. And then what are you noticing after a couple weeks and then going into the 4 to 6 week mark?
Well, after a couple of weeks, I noticed how Arabs carry themselves. There's a certain, they carry their heads high, they carry their tails high. And I hadn't seen Rafiq do that in the whole time I'd known him. He was really kind of subdued. And within 2 weeks, and I'm not joking, within 2 weeks' time, that head was up. He'd walk with a strut. His tail was up. He was just king of the pasture again. And my big 1,200-pound quarter horse used to pick on him all the time. He'd herd him around like a mare out there. And after about 2 to 3 weeks of eating that stuff, he would not take it anymore. He was like a colt again. He was like a colt again. He would buck. He would toss his head. He was full of life again. By 6 weeks, oh, good grief, by 6 weeks, he was shiny and glowing and sassy. I mean, he was total fat. He was so good that he just, went off by himself, and he was just everything a young Arab should be. And at 35 years old, he was really, really demonstrating some young stud stuff. He was really quite.
Wow, that is awesome. Now, and unfortunately, and of course, Mother Nature took her toll, and so at 35, he did pass. But how would you describe that last year, knowing, at age 34, when he was going down so fast, and you're thinking his time? What did that last year do for you guys?
That year, it brought so much joy into our lives again, to see him the way he had been when he was a younger horse. And he was like a puppy to George and I. He would follow us around just like a puppy and hook on and just he was a companion. And I don't know, it's hard for me to find the words, and I apologize for stuttering around with them, but we hurried out to watch him. We would go out to just watch him be who he was. And the day before he passed, I had gone out to do the evening feed, and he came over to the fence, and he was doing his thing with, he liked to rub his lip on my hand, and we were, just stand there talking. And I went out to feed the next morning, and the other horses came in, but he didn't come. So I walked out into the field, and he had just laid down. He had just laid down and passed quietly, and you could tell it was quiet. It was just the most wonderful and sad thing all at the same time. I couldn't have asked for him a better year than the one he had before he finally decided to cross over.
Yeah.
We miss him.
Yeah.
We miss him.
No, for
That's
sure.
When the other boys, and then the other boys started getting it, and there's some more miracles right there.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that is a great story. And, with everything that you had gone through, just trying to find the right things to help him feel comfortable. And, we're blessed in the fact that we have a product. And for those of you tuning in for the first time, I'll just take a quick minute to tell you exactly what this Equinety Horse Excel is. It's 100% pure amino acids. There's no fillers, no sugars, there's no starches, and there's no loading dose. A serving size is 5.2 grams, which is about like a teaspoon. And probably, your horse didn't like powders, and this one he licked right up, and it was probably due to the fact he knew he was lacking in amino acids, or the right amount of amino acids. And so what these amino acids are specifically designed to do is give the body what it needs to release the necessary hormones, which then the body can send its own hormones to the problem areas. And so that's why, a lot of people see demeanor changes relatively quickly. The bright, shiny eyes are very common, softer, shinier coat. I know one thing you had mentioned to me earlier, how was his mane and tail growth? Because they had kind of stopped growing for years.
Yeah, it had been very scraggly prior to this. It was very short and scraggly. It had lost patches and things, almost looked like midges, had been, and it wasn't. There was no sweet itch. So when I started giving him the Equinety, his mane and tail, his tail was dragging the ground. It had just started growing. I was telling George I need to trim it. And it was funny because first things, they don't get more hair or whatever. And no, he got a thicker tail. His mane was beautiful. He just absolutely beautiful. Oh, yeah. And just shiny. It looked like, I can't even tell you. He just glowed. There was a glow to his mane and tail, and how fast it grew was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and that is actually quite common. We have, if you have a horse and the coat just doesn't look quite healthy, just give them some Equinety Horse Excel, and that within 30 days or less, you should start noticing a very noticeable, softer, shinier coat.
Yeah.
And then not to mention, hoof growth, and because we're giving the body what it needs to help repair itself. And so this doesn't classify as a hoof supplement, a shiny coat supplement, a demeanor change supplement, or muscle building supplement. It kind of is an all-encompassing. And so going into the other two horses that you have, give us a little bit of their demeanor prior to giving them Equinety, and then how did this help change their persona?
Well, my Rowdy, he's my 1,200-pound red roan, and he is saucy at best, and he was actually pretty aggressive. I don't know if he was in pain. We tried vet visits, the whole 9 yards, couldn't quite get what was going on with him. And within the first 2 to 3 months, his whole persona, his demeanor changed. He calmed down, and I can honestly say nothing changed. As far as his feed or his circumstances, everything was pretty much the same except for adding the Equinety. And he's silver and red, and his silver just glowed. He just shined and glowed. His feet had a bad habit of chipping. The chipping has all but gone away. And the sole of his foot is tough. He just calmed down, and he still got his spice, he's still got some get up and go, but he's not as aggressive. He's not as pushy as he was. And my other friend, Dealer, he's my little quarter horse, my smaller quarter horse, a little dark bay. And it looked, him and Roddy were standing out in the corner of the field one day, and I called for George to hurry and come because it looked like Dealer looked like he had liquid copper just poured all over him. He was so shiny. They were just calm and just standing there and being calm and not racing and biting each other and just all this craziness. And they were just as calm, and they're still that way. They're still just nice and calm, but you get on them, you still got your get up and go, but they're not aggressive in the field like they were. I think that there was just a lot of things missing, and they were having some muscle pain maybe. I don't know. I'm not a vet, but I've spent enough on vets to find out.
Yeah, because the one you had mentioned to me earlier before we recorded just seemed a little bit uncomfortable, or just wasn't quite comfortable, and you couldn't quite figure out what was going on, and it was just kind of a mystery thing.
Yeah, that was Dealer, and we thought he was having spine issues or something. And so I called a chiropractor, and she came out. That wasn't it. And then I had the vet come out, and he looked him over, and he said, well, he's a little short-strided in the front, so let's put some shoes on the front. I'm like, oh, okay. So I put the shoes on the front. Didn't help. Didn't do anything. Matter of fact, we pulled them off because he was falling over his feet. It was like, oh, man, this isn't right. What's going on? So I can honestly say, since we started giving him the Equinety for the last year, he doesn't have that muscle issue. He doesn't have that short stride. He's not in pain. He is as relaxed and comfortable as he can be. Now, I don't know. I know people toss that word miracle around, but I've got 3 proofs of miracles here, and I won't be without the Equinety. I just won't do it.
Yeah, that's all. Well, I tell people all the time it's not a miracle supplement, but it sure has done some miraculous things. And, we've had quite a few people say, I was using the product, horses are doing great. And then I ran out, or I thought, well, I don't know if this is really working anymore. So they stopped giving it. And then their horses went back to the way they were prior to giving them the product. And then they're like, okay, I'll never go without this stuff. So,
they're true. They're true. They are true. They're telling you the truth.
Yeah.
No way. Take my Equinety. Won't happen.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, well, I tell you, if there's anybody tuning in, listening to this podcast, and they're like, okay, well, that all sounds great, and I'm still on the fence. Besides everything that you've talked about, is there anything that you might be able to say to them to get them to try it or get off the fence?
Yeah, I would. I've been in horses most of my life, and I'm 62 years old. And I've tried just about every product there is to try. Now, some of them will give you the illusion that things are good. They'll make your horse hotter. They'll make your hooves shine or whatever it is. But like John said, it's the overall effect of mind, body, everything. This affects everything in the horse, gut, everything, because it's an amino acid. And I can tell you that the price at times put people off that I've known. And I can tell you this, it's worth every single halfpence. You cannot find a better product that's an all-around product that will work with anything else you're giving them. It just does it all. It just does it all. Give it a chance. If you don't like it, if nothing happens, I wouldn't believe it.
I think you're going to be hired for our new spokesperson.
No, yeah.
So awesome. Well, Diane Fox out of California, I really want to thank you for your time today and for sharing these stories. I know it's going to benefit a lot of folks out there. So thank you so much.
Well, you are so very welcome, and I am so grateful that you asked. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of the Equinety Podcast. For more information on purchasing Equinety, be sure to visit our website at teamequinety.com, where you'll also find product information as well as more testimonials on how others have seen amazing results by implementing Equinety into their horse's supplement regime. We'll have more stories on how Equinety is helping horses worldwide right here on a future episode of the Equinety Podcast.